When I lose a duel, I'm upset.
Hello and welcome to Whatever the Weather. It turns out if you wear a kit dressed like Tottenham, you end up playing like fucking Tottenham. This is another Arsenal podcast.
Pod done, yeah. Well done.
I hate that kit. I appreciate the
Maybe it was a
sentiment.
bit sweary there. Maybe that was a bit of a...
No, today deserves.
Yeah, I think so.
It's going to be a sweary pod. Let's not
Yeah.
try and hide it. It's a shit day. We have to acknowledge that.
Yeah, that is very true. Okay, so let's go to James, who was there today.
Thank you, Graham. And yeah, from my very newsreaderish there, like doing a link on crappy nondescript cable TV. Yeah, I was at the game. It was shit. Those of you watched it on TV, it was equally shit. The pictures don't lie.
No.
I was just a bit colder watching it than I'm sure you guys were. Although, Graham, you do look particularly, as I can see through the Zoom, you do look particularly Baltic at the moment. But
I'm freezing,
yeah.
mate.
It was shit. We're actually not in dreadful form, and we actually probably didn't play that badly. I think we had an ridiculously high XG that we underperformed and have been underperforming recently. But losing to Man United sucks, especially a shit Man United.
Yeah, I think
and
it
especially
always
a
does.
shit Man United that were down to 10 men for the best part of an hour. It feels like as a club, look, football, to all intents and purposes, is about glory, all right, I suppose. And for a certain select few clubs in the world, you're measured on trophies. I don't think Arsenal are immune to that. And the time is ticking. It's 5 years since we won a cup. And I'm not going to include the Community Shields. And it feels like in the space of 4 days that the two cups that gave us our best opportunity of winning some silverware, we're out of one and we're all but out of another one. So, yeah, not great.
Yeah, as the start to the year goes, is let's be honest, it's been frankly terrible. The Newcastle game was terrible enough. They were clinical, took the chances. That was bad enough. I think we had 26 chances on Tuesday against Newcastle. Didn't take any of them. Havertz particularly was terrible. But the whole team was just a mess. Not a mess, but just couldn't finish. I mean, and today, we scored one goal, and that was from a very friendly deflection of De Ligt. I mean, some of the chances we missed today, I could have scored, and I'm terrible. And even a tipsy Graham could have scored some of the chances today. It was just, I don't know if it's confidence or it's just exhaustion or if it's a combination of the two. It's just that nothing seems to be working for us at the moment, and the team is knackered. Arteta seems to be, he hasn't any options. He can't bring anyone on because we've literally got one or two attacking options every game off the bench, and we just seem to get injury after injury. I mean, I think this has been this obviously Newcastle, Man United. If we lose to Tottenham or even a draw, I think the fan base will properly go crazy. I mean, we should have made a signing by now. We really should have done. It would have rejuvenated the fan base. It would have got the players a bit excited. It would have got everyone excited a bit more. And to go into
Keith, I'd ask you
this
at
three
this point, like who are we going to
I
sign?
mean, there's tons of players.
I would use a bit of producer license and say you've rambled off a bit rather than go talking about the game. You're going a bit much, Keith.
Okay, sorry. But going back to today's game, I think we got what we deserved in the end. If you don't take your chances, you don't deserve to win. And you can say the keeper made some good saves, United keeper, but he was a bit of a clown for one of the first the goal. Yeah, we should have won that game quite easily, and we didn't. And it really, really, really sucks. It's really painful. I hate losing any game. I especially hate losing to United. I really hate that team.
Here,
And
yeah.
like James said, a shit United, and we made them look good today at times. I mean,
Disagree.
okay,
No,
yeah, well,
I don't think
Yeah.
We
we
did
made.
not make Manchester United look good in any way, shape, or form.
Tom, what are you gonna say?
I don't think we made Manchester United look good today. I think that the if we'd taken even some of the chances we'd had plus the Gabriel goal, we would have won that game comfortably. As the profligacy in front of goal is what's hurting us at the moment. It keeps hurting us. Teams know that. I mean, teams concede a lot of chances against us. You know, even if they do a low block and they try and hit us on the counter like United did, and kind of like Newcastle did. If our guys aren't going to score their open goal chances when they get them, then you know we're going to give every team who we play against a chance. It's awful to see. Just there's no cutting edge at the front of the team at the moment. It's probably too simplistic to say that it's all because we miss Saka, but we really, really miss Saka.
Dude, we missed that
Like when
guy a
like
lot.
Sterling only
Yeah.
got Sterling only got as many minutes as he did today because of Jesus' injury, which sounds like it's a bad one from listening to the Arteta press conference
he'd
after the
probably be
game.
out the rest of the season, I reckon.
Well, we don't know any details yet,
No,
but he was
but
he was stretchered off, and it's not the same knee that he's had the big injury on before. It's the other knee. But Arteta
jeez.
said there's like based on what Jesus told him and what he told the medical staff when he had to be taken off, it does not sound good at all. So
Mm.
we're really running out of options now. It's basically Havertz, Martinelli, and Trossard,
Mm.
and I think that's
I
it
think
now.
if I come in here, I think I agree completely with what you say, Tom, and I think that the white elephant in the room, and I think I'm going to speak for all of us when I say this. Keith's already mentioned it. We need to sign some attacking players, and until we
Yeah.
do so, we're not going anywhere. Um, you
Mm.
know, we're relying on we were probably over reliant on Odegaard and Saka anyway, and the two injuries that they've suffered this season have just really highlighted that.
Really derailed us.
And and
Yeah.
and the,
Yeah.
the lack of goals, to be honest with you, or the lack of taking our chances and killing teams off has been a theme throughout the whole season. In fact, it's been a theme since we started doing this podcast over a year ago. It's always been a debate about whether we should buy a striker or not. Last season there were some tactical tweaks that we made when we went, obviously, that fated trip to Dubai mid-season, and we sort of rejigged a few things, put Kai Havertz up front, and we had a bit of I suppose, unknown about us, and went on a good scoring run and put ourselves right in the title race, and we're quite unlucky to finish second, I think, in the end. But this season, it feels like, I mean, I would kind of sum it up by saying it feels like watching Arsenal is we're a really, really, really well coached team, really well drilled, really well organised. And the proof in that is that we don't get really heavily beaten by anyone or get really opened up by anyone. But we've probably been found out a little bit in terms of our patterns up front, and where in the last two seasons those patterns and that being really well coached and really well organised made us outperform our XG. Now teams have got a little bit aware to that, and we're struggling to unpick the lock, and that then comes down to a question of quality, and it just feels like we don't have enough quality, whether that's depth of quality, whether that's starting quality. I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you, and I don't think the club know the answer to that, and they've tried a few different combinations. But yeah, it feels like it's unavoidable now that we have to go into the market. Whether they do that in January or not, I don't know. Because there is still stuff to save for the rest of this season. We're still very much in, the title race. For how long now, I don't know. And obviously, there's still an opportunity in the Champions League. But we don't want this team to bottom out. I mean, I think we should be pretty nailed on for top four, but you don't want to waste the season. So,
I mean,
but it's either that or do you wait until the summer and then get the players that you really want? I don't know. I don't know the answer. But that it feels like we're in that really, really difficult period where we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and it's just the timing. where the chickens have come home to roost.
It was Stuart Robson was commentating on the US coverage, and he was saying in the second half that he thought that Sterling was having a really good game. Did any of you guys think that? Because I didn't see it. Like, maybe
I
I'm
A
felt
lot of
that-
running about.
He had a few
lot
good
of running about.
moments.
I
but,
felt that
Not much.
Sterling. I tell you what, where I sit in the North Bank upper, it's so apparent that we are such a lopsided team, and everything goes down the right. So everything was going through Sterling, so it's easy for him to look good. There's a lack of trust or there's a lack of confidence. Something's going on with Martinelli, but the ball just doesn't come his way. When it does go his way, he doesn't do much with it. So maybe that's a reason why that happens. Sterling, I think, is very good at getting the ball, carrying it 5 to 8 yards, and then cutting back on himself. At no point did I think there was going to be any end product with Sterling. He's never been the cleanest striker of a ball. And then typically when you're coming in off the right-hand side, being a right footer, you're coming onto his weaker left foot, which he clearly uses his left foot just for standing on. There was no attempt for him to even take a swing with that. So I've always been a proponent that he'd better serve playing on the left-hand side, so he can cut in on his right foot. But obviously it's the tandem with Odegaard is what we're trying to get going again. Odegaard felt from watching it in the ground that he felt a little bit shot shy. Obviously, the miss the penalty is not going to do his confidence any good. His goal scoring form's really dropped off. And going back to what I was saying about the patterns of play, I mean, you think last season or the season before, we got 15 league goals out of Martinelli, we've got 15 league goals out of Odegaard, and the same out of Saka. Now only Saka's the only one who looks even remotely like getting into double figures, and we're going to miss him until what, March?
I was actually going to say something about that. Like, I feel like when Odegaard was injured, Saka really missed Odegaard. And I now feel that now that Saka is injured, like Odegaard really misses Saka.
I think
And
Ben White as well.
Ben
White as well.
White too.
Yeah.
Like I really think that we don't have a complete squad, and
No.
there are some shiny players there, but like there's a lot of
Last summer
there are a
was-
lot of gaps.
It's fair to
there,
say
and
though,
I-
Graham.
I
I just wanted to come in there and say that I think it's fair to say that I don't think any team in the history of football has ever had a complete squad
Well, of course.
at any point. I mean, even the
City
great
yeah.
Barcelona
concert
teams.
terms
Do you know what I
last
mean?
few years.
Barcelona, Man City, all teams are a player short here and there.
Mm,
The thing is with us is we've got to be very careful of not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. This is a team that last season got, record Premier League points total. The year before, they beat the record that was set the year before. The goals they've scored, it's not all bad, but it does feel like the squad building and the recruitment in the last window particularly has left us short. When we need to take
Yeah.
a step forward, it feels like we've potentially regressed a little bit.
I mean, it feels like, I think, like you said, we're still a good team. We're still going to finish second or third. We're still going to probably do decently in the Champions League. It's just that after the highs the last 2 seasons, it just feels like the world coming down and collapsing. And that's because as a fan, you're a bit irrational. But like you said, it's not as bad as the media is going to make it out to be tomorrow. But right now, it does feel that bad. And
Do you think that the way that the media approach Arsenal is a bit different to other teams? And I'm not
that's
saying
another podcast. That's
I know that.
No, but let's stick to today's
No, but
game.
listen. Like when you have
In short, the answer is yes, because
Yes.
as we know, there are a few clubs in this country that generate a lot of headlines because they have
Yeah.
more fans than anybody else, and it's Liverpool, Manchester United, Arsenal, bizarrely Tottenham, Chelsea, and Man City just don't get that traction that,
But the
that
thing
those
I
other
f-
clubs
the
do.
thing
And
I
that's
found
it,
re-
and engagement makes money. So yeah.
But the thing I found really funny is like headline is like Arteta complains about
media
Carabao Cup
the media.
But the thing is,
when he was asked a question about the ball and he replied saying, "Oh, it's a bit different. We'll get used to it."
But
But
again,
it's
the,
gonna
the
get- it's gonna
headline
get
is
shared.
the headline is Arteta complains about ball. That's not what he did. He was asked a question about it.
It is
Like-
he
podcast.
has been enough around the block. He could have, if he wanted to, have straight batted that and said that's a stupid question and nonsense it. He gave an
Yeah,
answer
true.
to it.
Mm.
I think he did it probably to protect the strikers and take a bit of heat off them. and
Yeah.
and use some
Yeah,
deflective
you're probably right.
tactics. The
Yeah.
media lapped it up, and he's probably sitting back at London Colney and thinking, "Well, that worked a treat."
Mm.
Tomorrow's morning press, probably not so much, because there's only so many
Yeah.
times you can keep deflecting from what is obvious, and what is blindingly obvious,
Mm.
as we've just said before, is the fact that we need to get some attacking new signings.
Mm.
We've tried the
Was
combinations we've got in this.
the big
We've
question
maxed
is,
out on them.
why haven't we signed someone yet? I mean, it was obvious in November and December that we needed a striker, attacking reinforcements. And it's going to be the 13th tomorrow.
Without
And
stating the bleeding obvious, Keith, we don't have a director of football.
Jason
Well,
Aitles,
we might do
temporary.
soon because
Yeah,
it might be
I mean,
It
I
might
know
be Thomas Rositzky, and
well,
why
Okay,
not?
okay.
the big thing is if you're the and I'm being flippant, right? I know Jason Ito stepped into that position, but if you look at it in the club, there's been a lot of upheaval in the last 5 or 6 years. Vinay has obviously left the club. Edu's now left the club. Is Tim Lewis and the Cronkies going to put all their money in favour of someone who's in an interim position? I don't know.
Mm.
You know,
Maybe.
but there's
It makes sense, yeah,
there's
but
got to be some sort of thought process behind
yeah,
it.
but if we don't sign anyone in January, if we don't sign anyone, is there a risk of us not getting top four?
No, not at all.
No, we've got
think
things
that,
to
but
we've got things to look forward to. Ben White is due back in training this month. Saka's going to be hopefully back in time for the Champions League knockout.
maybe that's a big maybe, Tom. We can't guarantee when he's going to be back. If he's going to be back.
His projected return date is March. Like if
Mm.
there's no setbacks, then we've had a pretty good record of players coming back either when they're expected to or earlier. Like with the injuries we have
Yeah,
had,
but
like, they've been
if
bad
we
injuries, but they
lose
have come back.
4 or 5 games before March, we could be out of the top four. It's
Right,
not.
steady on,
It's
steady on,
not
steady
out-
on. We've
it's not
lost.
Yeah,
out-
Steady on,
yeah,
steady on.
hang
Hold
on,
on,
hang
hold
on.
on. Hang on. Graham, can I just
I know I'm going to get jumped on,
We-
but it's not
we-
out the realms of
hang on,
possibility.
hang on. For a bit of context, I think in 2024 we lost about 5 games in the whole calendar year.
Yeah.
Right. We've only lost 2 games in the league season. So we lost to Newcastle, obviously, in the League Cup. A cup competition that, let's be honest, at the start of the season, none of us gave a crap about. It's how it's worked out as we found ourselves in the semi-final. And yeah, look, I'm not being revisionist. Of course, we wanted to win that game and that competition. But it's not the end of the world. We didn't actually lose today. In terms of in gameplay, we lost on penalties, which it can happen. It's unfortunate and it's shit and it sucks because we're out of competition. But we didn't lose a game. In terms of our league form, what you've seen over the last 3 seasons of Arteta ball, if we want to call it that, is that we're very, very competitive in games. We're not going to get opened up. We're not going to get beaten. Of course, we can lose games. Of course, you
Yeah,
can.
but
Any
we've
team
got
can.
so
But I don't.
many injuries at the
But
moment
let's
now.
be honest. It would take a massive, massive drop off for us to lose 3, 4 games before now on the end of this season, let alone the next few weeks. So I think let's just hold horses a bit. I mean, look, we've got a tough couple of games coming up, but
We sure do.
look, I mean, this is not like. I mean, look, part of it, this game today, part of it feels a little bit like the Sporting Lisbon game a couple of years ago, where it was like you're in the cup, you expend a load of energy, you lose on penalties, you come away from it and think, well, what was the point in that? We could have just gone out of the cup anyway and carried on with the league. Particularly when you have a injury, we suffered Saliba's injury in that game tonight, obviously Gabriel Jesus. So there's some similarities there. But I just don't see this team is going to have a massive drop off. The worry is that have we got enough in us to go and win games? That's the thing. Because you want to look forward and think, well, can we get ourselves back in a title race?
I think
Well,
right now
I think we are in a title race.
we're not.
I think
Not
we're
right now.
very much part of the title race, and I think the idea that we're not is absolute nonsense.
Well, you can think that, but right now I don't think we are. We're 6 points behind. They've got a game in hand.
8 points behind.
Okay, 8 points behind.
Looking at our next couple of fixtures, I think that in the league we've got Tottenham at home, Villa at home, Wolves away, Man City home. That's our next 4 league games. Plus we've got 2 Champions League games in there and the away leg at Newcastle. I mean,
It's a game every
It's-
3 days, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
just congested as could be.
Yeah.
and we're going to find out if these Tottenham, Villa, and Man City games being at home is a benefit because a lot of the narrative that I'm seeing, you guys know better than me because I can't go to the games being based all the way here in California, is that the home crowd is starting to kind of lose the vibe a little bit. Like they were talking about people leaving the ground during the penalty shootout today. I've never heard of that happening before.
I mean,
Obviously, there was an exodus during the Newcastle game.
when I went to the Everton game, when it was obviously 0-0, but obviously we were pushing to try and get the winner, people were leaving after the 75 minutes, 80 minutes. I mean, that does happen. I mean, that Bournemouth game when Nelson scored that wonder goal winner a few seasons ago, people were leaving when it was 2-2, 6 minutes to go. It happens, but it does feel more noticeable when
Keith, is that the game where you got punched in the head?
I got elbowed in the back of the head by someone celebrating. Yes.
People
Anyway.
have always left games early. I mean, it was. I'm going to be honest with you that it. How can I say this without sounding like I'm Arteta out? The football we play is not the most entertaining. It's not peak Wenger ball. There was a point in it. Well, in extra.
Not peak,
Put it
not
this
peak
way.
Arteta ball.
Put it this way. That last 60 minutes after their red card and we equalised, or sorry, after we missed the penalty in normal time. Apart from corners, I don't think we really look like scoring. So it's not the most exciting edge of your seat stuff that you want to stay with anyway. It was cold. People have got work in the morning when you get home. It's a Sunday. There's lots of reasons people want to leave. I mean, in terms of people leaving during the penalty shootout, I mean, you're talking of tens of people, not even hundreds or thousands.
Okay.
So yeah, it wasn't a mass exodus by no stretch. I think the crowd is still predominantly behind Mikel Arteta. There is always a vocal minority that are going to be like, he's just our Brendan Rodgers. We need someone to take us to the next level, and so on and so forth, and all these, moronic opinions that are very, very, very knee jerk and forget where
Is
we
there
are.
a sense
I mean,
of
there is a feeling though. There is a feeling that's coming up.
deflation
Well, I was going to say there is
after
a
the
feeling.
high of those 2 seasons?
I think the feeling that is starting to come through now is that this is year 5 now. This is not year 1 of a project. This is not rebuild time. This is, we've spent a lot of money on this team, and there is a real thirst amongst the fan base to win a league, and to be competitive for a league, but certainly to win the league, or a big trophy. And the longer that continues not happening, the more people are going to get frustrated. It's like towards the end of the Arsene Wenger era. You're
James,
always
if
going to get that.
James, if I might say, and I always say this, I still believe we can win the league. I just
Yeah,
do.
that I don't think is necessarily
I
relevant
don't.
though in terms
No,
of
but I
whether
don't
people
think
have
it's.
faith in
I
Mikel
just
Arteta
don't
at
think
the
it's
moment.
possible. I just don't.
I think a lot of things would have to start going right very quickly for us to win the league. We need to start an unbeaten run by beating the Scum on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I think even an unbeaten
just
run, Tom,
think-
is not. It needs to be a winning run, doesn't it? That's
I
the thing.
suppose you're right. Yeah, we need to win
Yeah, we
every
need to
game
go on a
for the rest
winning.
of the season.
We need to go on. Yeah, and that the thing that makes me feel like we're not going to chase Liverpool down is the fact that they're 8 points clear. They've got a game in hand, and we've got to go to Anfield, and we're probably going to have to win at Anfield. And I just don't know that we've got enough
definitely.
goals. I don't know that we've got enough goals in the team at the moment, and are playing well enough at the moment to turn that around quickly enough.
Oh yeah, with the points difference it is, they could already be champions by then because it's the third last game of the season.
Yeah, they have to go on a horrendous run of form, and we have to start winning now.
It just seems like this season we've had everything that could go wrong
The fine
go wrong.
margins have gone against us for sure.
Yeah, we had the referee stuff, the decisions there. We've had lots of injuries, bad luck in front of goal, bad finishing, and also last summer's transfer policy has come into sharp focus, and it wasn't the right way to go last summer. But at the time, it seemed like a good idea. But it just seems like a combination of all those factors, and maybe a little bit of deflation after the Lord Mayor's show, after the highs of those 2 seasons. It's all combined, and it just feels like this season's everything's going wrong. And it feels like the best we can hope for now is second or third, and maybe a good Champions League run, get to the semi-finals, maybe get excitement that way, build for next season.
Well, Keith, as always, you're the most.
Yeah, no, I know.
You're the most optimistic,
I
the
have
most
to say-
optimistic of
You can
Arsenal
go for that.
fans.
I
You
have
can
to
go
say-
for
I
that.
have to
That's
say,
just
I
my,
think-
just my thoughts.
I have to say, I think that's quite measured for where we are at the moment, because it would be quite easy to say rip it all up, because
Mm.
see when you know we've knocked on the door twice for the league, and I think what I do think is important actually is as a fan base is that we shouldn't get carried away about cup exits, domestic cup exits. Look, the cups are really important. I said earlier on, there's a select group of clubs that are measured purely on success and winning trophies, and we're one of those, which is a great place to be. But you don't. We're also in a position where you don't pick a manager just based on his cup success. You know, Man United don't. You know, otherwise Ten Hag would still win a job. It's based on your league performances, and Mikel Arteta's league performances have been really, really good and really strong. It's the reason why you know. Otherwise, we'd keep Unai Emery. You know, you could go on and make the comparisons, or whatever. So, league-wise, I think we're where we can see the progress there. I do wonder if this squad, if we've outperformed what the squad's abilities are in the last two seasons.
Mm.
You know, and that we haven't had we haven't had huge injuries to the real key players. I know we can point to injuries to Timber and Saliba and so on and so forth, but I feel like in the last two seasons, Arteta's done a really, really good job with getting us organised and finding different ways for this team to win and be successful and competitive. And I do wonder, has that covered over the true strength of the squad? For a long time, one of the things that was levelled at us in the late Wenger era and the Unai Emery period in the first part of Arteta was that we collected a lot of squad players that weren't really sellable assets, and that we couldn't sell very well. I think we've done quite a good job in clearing through a lot of that. Last summer, obviously, we sold or let go some homegrown players. But have we really replaced them in the sense of numbers in the squad and up the quality, or have we just trimmed some of the excess? And is there still more of that to be done? You know, I've mentioned a few times in the past that you know we bought players like Zinchenko and Gary Jesus, who clearly really, really superbly talented players, but were they just the players that get you from being a club that was, as we were before Arteta, in 6th, 7th, 8th position? Are they the players that get you into the top four and solidify you as a top four club? Do you then need to go again to challenge for the Champions League and League? And we all forget that, you know, this Liverpool squad was based off a hell of a lot of expenditure under Jurgen Klopp. Man City obviously have had a bit of a tough time, but they spent huge amounts on their squad. Chelsea have spent nearly £1 billion on their squad just to get in the top four. Man United have got a big spend ahead of them. You know, we all thought when we bought Declan Rice and Kai Havertz for a huge outlay that would this be, you know, Alisson and Van Dijk signings that would tip us over the edge. But maybe we just need a lot more than that. Maybe we've got to keep going back to the Kroenke's money pit to go again, because I feel like that's probably where we are.
Calafiori, I mean, he's a very talented player, but he's just injured all the time. There's three left backs we bought in a row that are always injured. It's just ridiculous. And Marino, decent player, but I still don't think I still not seeing what he's really bringing to us. So that's two players there that cost us what 70, 80 mil that aren't giving us anything so far this season.
They haven't
apart
moved the
from-
needle, have they?
I tell you
Which
what,
is
I'm
a phrase we'd like to use.
And
I'm
80 million, that
I'm-
could have been spent on a striker. That could have been spent
Well,
on
I
a
think
striker.
the thing is, we went into last summer thinking that we probably need to upgrade the midfield at some point or get Declan Rice a partner, which was probably perhaps a bit of the thinking with Marino. We needed to buy a left back, which we did, but we bought an injury prone one, which is
Again.
a shame. But we needed to buy some form of attacker, and what we did, we got Raheem Sterling on deadline day, and then we bought a goalkeeper in who was cup tied. So yeah, it don't read very well, does it?
Yes, it doesn't. It does not read very well at all. I was actually going to ask you guys, what is your best Arsenal January signing?
Well, I mean, that we could make right now.
No,
Or
I
in
mean
history.
historically.
I don't know about historic. I mean, let's keep it to that this January. What we should be doing
Probably
now.
Andre Arshavin, but if we could make a signing,
Oi!
Andre Arshavin, if we could make that type of signing, I mean, that would go down very well. I mean, Kai Havertz, I'm expecting he's going to get a lot of grief because he missed a couple of chances and generally he's not the prolific striker that I think people seem to think that he should be.
Mm.
But he wouldn't be so bad if Martinelli was contributing 15, 20 goals a season. You know what I mean? He's almost like he's our Firmino, but we don't have a Mane or a Salah. That's the problem.
Mm.
There's just not enough goals in the forward line. It all seems to rely on Saka. Gabriel Jesus has had bursts. He just can't stay fit. Unfortunately, he just can't stay
Well,
fit.
we
And
saw
then his
him.
form goes
We
up.
saw him taken
and
off on
down.
a stretcher earlier on. So yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't bode well. Sterling, I've seen nothing from Sterling, despite a decent performance today, but I've seen nothing from Sterling that makes me think that we'll make that permanent.
No way.
Trossard seems to be someone
Bloody
who
hope not.
is very much an impact player, but his impact's starting to wane, which
And also, you know
really
that
causes concern.
Trossard has refused a 2-year contract
Well, I think like a lot of them, they look at the money on offer from
in
Saudi.
the last
That's
few
why.
days, and they yeah.
And also, Trossard knows if Arsenal's best 11 is fully fit, he's not in it. So he's not a starter. He knows that. So he probably thinks, well, if I'm not going to start here, I've had 2 years at Arsenal. I've played at a big club in England, the Premier League. Did really well at Brighton. Let me go make my money in Saudi now.
He's in his late 20s, isn't he? So I expect this is his last big contract. So he's probably looking for either a 3-year deal or what's on offer in Saudi. But you can see there though that already. I mean, again, we can go over it in so many different ways. But the fact is, we need to get some attacking players into the team. What we do this week though is going to be quite telling. I think Mikel's really going to have to kind of pull out all the stops, do something different tactically to kind of get us competitive against Spurs and Villa, which I know he will do because I believe that's the type of manager he is. He'll set us up in a way to try and get something out of us. But yeah, you do worry and think that if we go a goal down in those games, then we're really in trouble. That's why I was so aggrieved when we dropped points to Brighton for what I thought was a nonsense decision to give them a penalty, because when we do get ourselves 1-0 up, I feel like we're quite well set that we can sit on that and protect that lead. It was so infuriating to go goal down today as well. I mean, I thought Manchester United offered absolutely nothing, and then the one breakaway they get, it was, I thought, quite a good finish from Bruno Fernandes, and then they did nothing. And then thereafter that, there's a couple of little breakaway runs, but
I think Xerxes had a really good save from Raya, didn't he? That was it.
yeah, was that deflected? From where I was, it looked like it was deflected, but
I can't remember now, but it was a good save.
But yeah, they didn't offer much at all.
Like I said,
They stuck to it, and people say they had a really good defensive performance. They didn't, because we created so many openings. We just didn't have anyone who could kind of finish it off.
if Odegaard scores that penalty, we would probably win that game 3-4-1.
Well, the stats bear it out, don't they? There was enough.
Yeah.
The XG was enough that we would have, on another day, we'd win that game
I mean, Havertz missed.
3 or 4.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, not ideal.
It's not. The whole world is not going to collapse in on us. It's not the end of the world type thing. It's not like we're going to be 5th or 7th this season. But yeah, it's just feels
No,
like
Keith, we're going to win the league. Like you need to
Well, if we don't win the league,
stop
would
being
you
so
say-
pessimistic.
what would you say? So, let's continue the theme of pessimism for just a minute, Graham. What would be the worst that would be acceptable for this team
Finishing in the
without
top
ripping it
four.
up and starting again?
4th.
Finishing in the top 4.
I think the minimum is we have to come in the top
Yeah.
4, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think Tom got that one. Yeah, but I think we're already going to be in the top 4. Like, well,
So would 4th be good enough?
obviously,
Yeah,
I
well,
think
then-
that.
well, then
look at it that
Obviously,
way,
I
would-
think that because
but
I
then-
think we're going to win the league. Like,
but
I'm
would-
not.
Would
you
then
know.
4th? So if Man City overhauled us,
No, they
or
won't.
Nottingham Forest finished above us,
City got to sign 2-3 players this month, and they still have a fantastic squad. So
Mm.
Yeah, they might get relegated though. Maybe.
I mean, that's
That
the
is
dream.
very true.
That'd be sweet.
I reckon there's more chance of me going to the moon than them getting relegated. I think they're going to
Yeah,
probably
I
get
know,
away
I
with
know.
everything.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
funnily
that's
enough, Keith, I've arranged for your birthday this trip to the moon.
Oh, cheers.
nice.
Moon
It's
on the water
it's a one-way trip. by the way. Like you can't come back. Like
No, it means being away from you. Fantastic.
And you won't be able to watch the Arsenal anymore. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Well,
true.
I was just looking at some of our historic January signings, and we signed Martin Odegaard and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang in January.
I
Like,
was gonna
obviously,
say that was actually the point I was going to come to was that, you know, we talk about January signings like nothing good ever comes from that. But
Signings can be done in
we
January.
mm,
It's not impossible to make signings in January. Like people say, oh,
mm,
it's impossible. It's not. It's very, very doable.
well, Odegaard was a
Tottenham signed a
loan.
new
Odegaard was a
keeper.
loan signing.
Tottenham signed a new keeper for 15
Yeah,
million.
Odegaard was alone. Aubameyang was a strange one.
It was like 65 million because
Because I think
Dortmund
we
did not
we
want him around anymore.
yeah, I think we realised that we bought Alex Lacazette and he wasn't the player that we thought he was. So quick,
Yeah.
let's get the checkbook out
mm.
and go and get Orba.
Yeah.
They didn't
Well,
find us the Champions League
the thing
either.
with Oba was a toxic presence at his old club as well. He pretty much been frozen out, so it's just they would have got rid of him for free if they could have. It was under contract, so that seemed like a good deal at the time. But a few years later, we saw the same shit happen again. You know, Leopard doesn't change his spots. We ended up having to get rid of him for the same reasons Dortmund did because he's a massive ego, and you know, there's some relationships end up in a position where they can't be fixed.
And part of the reason why he was late for that game against Tottenham is because him and his stupid big car got stuck on the Muswell Hill roundabout and couldn't get down to the Emirates. So yeah,
So I guess that's the thing, you know, that was a kind of we need to save our season with a big signing striker at the time, and I don't think anyone would say that Aubameyang was an unmitigated success at the Arsenal. Like, him and Lacazette had a pretty good partnership, but
I mean,
it was the end. It was the end
won
of
us the
Wenger.
FA Cup.
Yes, yeah, he
I
did
mean,
win us
yeah,
it.
like you say, it wasn't a massive
I have to
success,
say
but
I have a little bit of a soft spot for Aubameyang purely because of the times where I got my season ticket. Um, we were crap to watch, but he was brilliant. Like
Mhm.
he was the superstar player that was, he made it work kind of worthwhile watching us, or bearable, I should say. And he scored some really big goals against some of our most hated teams. So
bearable.
yeah,
Thanks,
he
man.
did. He did. Because some of the football but some of the football it wasn't just like this. It was where Plan A, because all the, people talk about a Plan B like till they're blue in the face, and yet all the top managers they all have this one thing in common where they say there is no Plan B. Plan B is to make Plan A work better. That's it. They all have the same philosophy. Like none of them want to go against that. They have a way of playing and they want to make that work, and they'll use different combinations or different ways to get that working, but they won't just suddenly just throw something else at it. But no, with the football back then, it kind of all got a bit stale, and Aubameyang sort of like brought it back to life again. Much like Arshavin did. I think Arshavin was clearly the best signing because we were on course to finish fifth or sixth, and he sort of fired us to the Champions League.
Yeah.
And for about a year and a half, obviously the half season when he joined in, the first full season he was absolutely electric for us. But another one, he just wasn't a very good trainer by all accounts. I think a lot of these foreign players, they have an ego and an entourage, and they just, yeah, for whatever reason, they find it hard
Okay.
to.
Okay,
Not that
so
English players don't. I don't know why I said foreign players. It really doesn't makes no odds. But yeah,
If you
there's a lot of players.
I hear
keep
you're
playing at that
a
level.
race. I hear you're a racist now, James.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that going on. Yeah.
if you could be one signing this month, what would it be?
Well, what would it be, or who would it be?
Well, yeah, well, like either one.
Guy
2004 Thierry Henry. There we
Which I
go.
mean that'd be amazing. But let's be
He was a
realistic.
January signing. We signed him on loan.
He was a January signing, 2012. Yeah, let's get him back.
What about that Napoli winger?
I think it's going to be announced he's going to join PSG.
What
Oh,
a waste.
really?
What a fucking waste.
Are we
go.
reaching a point where we've kind of crested the wave and Arsenal's, is the glimmer of Arsenal being an exciting club to join if you want to win trophies? Is that light starting to dim a little now? Because we were all talking the
Well-
last 2 summers about how we are now this glamorous destination and we can buy anyone we want because we're right there next to Man City. The mood among the fans certainly would suggest not. The fact that we're riding high in the Champions League, second in the Premier League with the same last 5 form as Liverpool, draw, 3 wins and draw. But I don't know. You'd think that we were like skirting the bottom of the league the way that people are talking about the team. Do you think that
The
that
sky's falling
negativity
in.
could affect could that negativity affect players' desire to join Arsenal? Does it still look like a good project?
As long
Does
as
it look
we,
like Arteta's
as long as we
peak?
get top four for next
I've
season,
said this before
we'll be
to
fine.
anyone that will listen. Players will go where whoever pays the most.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
we're
all.
we're in good
Carlos
shape,
Very
mate.
Tevez,
true.
Carlos Tevez, and Yaya Toure. Yaya Toure left the champions of Europe, Barcelona, to join Man City, who were about eighth in
That's
the
true.
Europa League at the time because he was getting weighed in. Carlos Tevez walked away from Man United, who just won the league for 2 or 3 years in a row, to join Man City for the same reasons. You know, players will go where the money is, and obviously where the opportunity is. And Arsenal haven't become a bad team overnight. We're still a
North
really
London
attractive
as well.
proposition.
London's
Yeah, and look, the thing is, I think we've got to be careful. When we've said this before, Dan's mentioned this a few times. We're not. We need to get out of this idea that we're buying squad players. We're buying players to go into our first 11, and that's an attractive opposition for players. You know, if there's a, I don't know, I don't. My knowledge of world football isn't what it used to be. But if we were going to buy, let's say we were going to buy Leroy Sané, I don't know, from Bayern Munich, but you say, right, you're going to be our left winger. I think that's an attractive proposition. Now, whether he would want to leave Bayern Munich's another story, but do you know what I mean? Like, I still think that is an attractive proposal. I think the Arsenal are always going to be an attractive club, but the thing is, at the moment, yeah, these players are at a premium. I think a lot of fans will say we need to buy a centre forward. You know, we should buy Alexander Isak. I think that's something that's complete pie in the sky. Newcastle, to all intents and purposes, are the richest club in the world. Um, from
Yeah.
what I've heard and read, they are waiting and they're not going to do anything significant in the transfer market until the Man City decision's been made one way or the other. And then they're potentially going to go absolutely nuclear and go hell for leather and throw all the money in the world at it. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know who we sign. I don't know who we sign. Um, but I do think we need to get someone through the door for sure, and it needs to be someone who's going to lift the fans a little bit. You know, there might be. You know, I think I jokingly said in one of our WhatsApp groups that Mikel might favour buying a backup right back, so we don't have to keep putting Thomas Partey out there. But I think if the this we did this January was to bring in a backup right back or another right back, I think the fan base would collectively try and rip the Emirates down. You know.
Yeah.
Hmm. So, guys, we're playing Tottenham
Oh
on
yeah.
Wednesday. How are we feeling about that game?
Don't go 1-0
Fantastic.
down. Don't go 1-0 down. Would be the,
Don't go
Look, Tottenham
1-0
aren't a great
down.
team. Tottenham aren't a great team. I'm not going to look at, you know, sorry, this is all becoming the James podcast here, but
It is a bit,
Um,
yeah. Go on.
Tottenham are not to be judged on their performance against Tamworth or their performance against Liverpool. It would be a different Tottenham. They always raise their game when they play Arsenal. But one thing that we know from their manager, because it's just who they are, mate, is that they're going to come and have a go, and they're going to come and, you know, they'll sense that Arsenal morale is a little bit low,
Hmm.
and they will attack us. If we play naive football and leave the back door wide open and let them go through it, they will do so. They showed that when they beat Man City away quite comfortably. But it is also Tottenham, and they have a soft underbelly. And if we, you know, stifle them from an attacking point of view, they will leave gaps and will be open, and we can capitalise on that. So, yeah, I don't fear Tottenham at all. It's a derby, so you're always going to be nervous about it. But yeah, I think we're in a strong position to beat them. The game I worry about more is Aston Villa because Aston
Villa,
Villa,
yeah.
Unai will quite happily sit in
He
and try and
knows
frustrate
he
us.
knows too much.
Well, he'll try and he will have the attitude, as he's always had with Aston Villa, that a point away from home is a good result because
Hmm.
his thing for them is to get them back into the Champions League, isn't it?
Hmm.
What's the score going to be against Tottenham, Graham?
1-0.
Not 5. You normally go for big with the 5-0.
No, I know, but I've decided that, you know, a good old-fashioned 1-0 to the Arsenal is the way to go.
I would be happy with that.
Yeah. Keith?
1-1.
1-1.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Unpopular prediction there. What I would say is that, you know, at least Tottenham had to go to 100, 120 minutes against the mighty Tamworth today.
Oh,
So
Tamworth.
they should be, you know, I'm sure they rested some of their players on the grounds it was Tamworth, whereas we played pretty much our first strength 11
Do you know
game.
what's really funny, Tom, actually, is the fact that when it got to extra time, then they bought on Sun, they bought on like their proper players.
Yeah, of course. I didn't want to lose to Tamworth. My God, like that would have taken
Oh no,
Spurs
but
to a whole
dude,
new
like you're
level.
playing Tamworth at home,
It was
like
away. It was at Tamworth.
Is that Tamworth? Yeah, on their plastic
yeah.
pitch.
Here's a quick question for you. It's just come to my mind.
Hang on.
No,
James has not done his prediction
okay.
for the Spurs game.
Obviously, I mean, not going to be groundbreaking. I was going to just say I would bite your arm off for a 1-0 win, but I'd say I can't um, endorse Keith's pessimism. So I'll say
1-1.
I'll say 2-0. I'll say 2-0.
Okay.
Set piece again. Ole.
Do you think that there's any risk of Arteta walking at the end of the season if he feels he's not being backed enough
No.
by the ownership?
Nah, I don't think so.
I think it would depend if other clubs were making overtures at him. Like if one of the big European clubs was making noises at him, especially a Spanish one, then I think there's a chance. But
Mm.
you know, there's a lot of football to play before then.
I think he's got the keys to the kingdom, and I think when
Mm.
you're a head coach or manager, that's all you really want, and I think he's got that. Um,
Yeah, I can't.
he's
I
had that in the
can't.
past.
Mm.
You know, when we won the FA Cup, which seems like an awful long time ago, probably because it was a long time ago.
Yes.
He got his title changed, didn't he, from head coach to manager.
Yes.
That was part of a stipulation when he agreed a new contract. When Raul Sanllehi left the club, and he went to go and sign Thomas Partey. He went and had a meeting with the Cronkies to get them to authorise the funds to go and make that money available to go and sign him.
Suitcase full of
When
cash.
he apparently pushed the club to go the extra mile to get Declan Rice. The club had their valuation of I think 85 million. Obviously, City bid. Arteta picked up the Stan line, rang Stan in LA and got that deal over the line as well. I think they back him. He's bought them what they want as owners. They want consistent Champions League football, and he's brought them that. And it looks like that will continue again. So, I think what you've got to remember is, and it's that famous quote. I think it was Stan Kroenke who said this, that we don't play for trophies. You play for consistency. Consistency of getting in the top four because of what that brings in terms of revenue. So from an ownership model, I think they're very happy with him. And I don't see any way that they would let him go. Whether he would walk, like you say, because he'd have lack of backing, I think if he pushed them, they would bow to what he wants. So I think they would back him within reason. I don't think they're going to give him a £500 million war chest. But I think if he was like, look, I want to spend 150 million on a player, I think they would back him because they've backed him with Declan Rice. So I don't see a reason they wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. One thing about Mikel that I find quite interesting is that I don't see the club firing him. Like I
Oh, no
sort of,
chance.
I just don't see it. Like, um,
I think he's very, very powerful.
But I also think, as Arsenal fans, we're used to having managers who are there for a long time. George Graham was there for a long time, and then Wenger was there for a long time too.
That
I
doesn't
just
always
don't.
flow. I think
No,
West
I
Ham
know
had a
that.
long
I
history of having
get.
managers for a long time until they
No,
suddenly
but I
didn't.
mean,
It can all change quite quickly.
Yeah, but what I mean is, I think with Arsenal, it's just like, well, we're going to stick with this rather than keep flipping it. So,
Well, as I said, I think from an ownership point of view, if Arsenal are consistently in the Champions League and being competitive in the top floor, not just scraping fourth place all the time, that would appeal to them for sure. It keeps the money coming in, and that's what they'd want us to do. We don't spend ridiculous amounts of money on signings either, so I think, yeah, that model suits them. In terms of where he would go, I think, like Tom said, I think if one of the big Spanish jobs were to open up, I think he'd be interested. But I think he'd also be very aware of that. You go there and you would just be a head coach. They go through managers quite quickly. They don't let managers really ingratiate themselves too much. Man City have got a new director of football coming in the summer, but I think Pep will see that through. To be honest, very spoken. I think his own ego. He won't want to leave them on a downward curve. And then you look around the other clubs in England. I don't see Mikel going to any of them. So the Premier League's the place to be, right? So yeah, I don't think there's any danger of that. And nor should there be either, as I said as well. League-wise, he's made us really competitive again. I said it's, football fans are always accused of being fickle and having short memories, but those of us that have got longer memories, it wasn't very nice going to lose 5-1 at Anfield or 6-0 at Stamford Bridge, or getting turned over at places like that, or getting bullied around by mid-table clubs. We're competitive in every game we play, and I think let's be honest. I think if we can correct our goal scoring form, we have got a good chance in the Champions League, or as good as anyone else. We've got to be within the top 3, 4, 5 favourites for that competition. We're second in the league. If anyone's going to chase Liverpool down, it probably is going to be us. Doesn't feel likely at the moment, but we are in that position. So yeah, I don't think things are as bad. It's just a bit shit when you lose 2-0 at home in a cup semi-final, and then you lose to Man United in the third round of the FA Cup.